Hey, kiddos, time for the daily bread, and I hope you're ready to listen because I've got a lot to say today. So dial it in, pay attention. Here we go. Here's today's tract. Daily Tract 176, Genesis chapter 5, verse 4. And after he conceived Seth, the days of Adam that passed were 800 years, and he conceived sons and daughters. And all that time that passed while Adam lived was 930 years, and then he died. Kids, again, I want to remind you that we're talking about our history these next few tracks. And yesterday we talked about Adam and then Seth being our great grandparents, right? And you can see that Adam and Eve had many more kids together, okay? And yesterday I told you that we talk about how Adam had a child and apparently many more kids, not just at 135 years old with Seth, but many more after, and even at an older age. And, we learned that Adam was 930 years old. I mean, can you imagine that? How can this be true? Well, let me just say, why would someone make it up? There's no advantage for someone to lie about someone living 930 years old. And in fact, it would make people not believe it, right? Unless, of course, it actually was true. And I believe it is true. Why do I believe that? Well, number one is it's the inspired word of God. God had Moses write this stuff down, okay? If God said it, I believe it. But number two, scientifically, it's actually very possible. And remember, God originally designed us to live forever, right? It wasn't until sin came along that we would die, right? And so I know that you kids, you will learn about something called DNA and cells in school, but I want to take this time to kind of walk you through it at a simple level, okay? I'll try to keep this as simple as possible, all right? Inside of your body, you have 37 trillion tiny little cells, okay? All of those cells have different jobs to do inside of your body, right? That makes sense, right? All these little cells work together, so that you can function throughout your day, right? Because, you breathe on your own. You don't think about breathing. Your heart beats, and you don't even think about your heart. It's not like you're telling your heart, hey, beat one more time. Hey, beat again. Beat. Your body knows how to do things, and that comes from your cells, okay? So inside these cells, all of these jobs that they do, they have to have instructions on how to do it, right? Your body knows how to build itself, okay? It happened from the time that you was in your mom inside her womb until you came out, and it's still building itself today, right? It's just regenerating itself. So inside your body, these cells have something called DNA, and your DNA is the instructions of how your cells are supposed to build each other. It's like when you want to build something with Legos, okay? You guys like Legos. Legos, think of the Legos as the cell of inside your body, right? Each little Lego is like a cell. And when you're building something, let's say you got an instruction booklet on how to build, a house or a ship or whatever your Legos that you're trying to build, okay? Those instructions tell you how to build the Legos. The instructions to build the Legos is just like the DNA, okay? All of these cells over time get old and they get damaged and they get worn out. So the cells have to replicate, okay? They have to remake themselves, okay, before they die. And the cell looks at the instructions on how to do that, and that's the DNA, right? The instructions. They replicate, which means they copy themselves, okay? And eventually the cells die. Now, imagining you're copying a picture like an art, right? You take a picture and you're looking at it and you copy it down, all right? But imagine you take that copy, okay, and you make another copy of it. And then you take that picture and make another copy of that one, okay? Eventually, if you make a bunch of copies, when you take the latest copy, right, the one you just drew, and go all the way back and compare it to the very first original one that you was looking off of, it probably looks pretty different, okay? If not very different. And the same thing can happen with cells. When you copy cells over and over, they can have errors, okay? We call these mutations, all right? Now, don't get me wrong. Your body is an amazingly designed machine here, all right? and it has cells that prevent itself from copying things incorrectly, okay? But sometimes it does happen, all right? So when you have people live generation after generation, think of all those copied cells, okay? And the mutations that are possible. Because mutations, that's what cancer is, okay? That's when you get heart disease and health issues. And all these health problems that we have today actually come from the cells in our body and or outside things like viruses. But it can happen where the cells in our body actually is what causes us to die eventually, okay, and die sooner sometimes, right? That's why you have a hereditary disease. That means you got something from your ancestors, right? But let me propose that when Adam was alive, he was created directly from God, so his cells were as perfect as you can get. So he didn't have hereditary health problems, okay? The other thing to remember is that the world was very different. The sun's radiation was a lot less. Not that the radiation was less, but when the sun shined down every time, today it punctures our skin, okay? It punctures holes right through our body. The radiation does. And your body has to repair those cells. And that's why when you're in the sun too long, you can actually start to see damage, and that's called a sunburn, right? But remember, before the flood, the earth had this protective layer of water around the upper atmosphere, which reduced the radiation, okay? So the radiation always came from the sun, but at that time, the earth was designed to kind of prevent that from being a problem, okay? So therefore, people's bodies were much more protected, allowing them to live longer. The other thing that the layer of water around the earth did was there was more atmospheric pressure and more oxygen at that time. And all of those cells in the bodies get their energy from food and oxygen. And the more oxygen in your blood, right, in your cells, the more alive you are, the more healthy you are. So I say all this because I believe Adam did live to be that old. Not just because God said so, but I think scientifically there's evidence that is absolutely possible, okay? Now, as kids, this is probably like, whoa, like way beyond your understanding. I get it, okay? Heck, even adults, we find this stuff hard to understand. But someday, after you go and learn about this in school, you learn about cells in the body in science class, come back and watch this track. Remember, track 176, okay? Come back and watch this track, and hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense, all right? God bless. I love you.